When the world watched and learned about the horrific and barbaric acts carried out by Hamas on Israel, I think most people were just shocked. It was unbelievable. How does a human being murder and behead innocent babies? How does anyone take delight in something like this? What kind of sick and evil organization supports the capture and rape of women? What kind of person drags another human through the streets just because they're a Jew? Then they celebrate these atrocities by handing out candy and screaming Allah Akbar. Perhaps even more troubling for us here in America are the people on the left who have expressed their support for Hamas. We constantly hear the left using words like freedom fighters, human rights. They talk about the need for world peace and how we can eliminate human suffering. Here's one for you. They love to talk about how Islam is all about women's rights. And you folks that are conservatives, you folks on the right, you just need to stop being intolerant bigots and learn how to coexist. Well, if there's anyone left in this country with just a little bit of common sense, we might ask, how in the world can you use words like the left is currently using while simultaneously supporting Islam and Hamas? The word Hamas means strength, especially the strength of Allah. The word Hezbollah means the party of Allah. And what we witnessed all across the world on October the 7th, 2023, was people who believed and acted on what the Quran says. Hamas has rightly been referred to as just another ISIS. These are people who hate the Jews, and they hate them because they believe that Allah has cursed them and the Christians according to Surah 9:30. This is the same chapter that says, and I quote, "Fight them and Allah will punish them by your hands." Surah 9:14. How about Surah 8:60? "Cast terror into their hearts." So someone please tell me, does Rashida Tlaib know about these verses? The left constantly exalts her as the first Muslim woman elected to Congress. She currently has a Palestinian flag outside of her office in Washington, D.C. She constantly lectures us, the American people, about the violence in Israel, and she calls for the end to the Israeli occupation. Does she read and understand the Quran? Where is the outrage over these women who have been repeatedly raped and drug around by their hair? Folks, where's the outrage over the beheading of Israelis? Once again, we don't have to look very hard to find support for these kind of things in the Quran. Surah 47:4 says that when you meet the unbelievers, notice the context here is not war. It's those who don't believe like we do or don't believe like Islam teaches. When you meet these unbelievers, strike at their necks. Several places in the Quran, including Surah 4:24, talk about women outside of marriage as those whom your right hand possesses. This passage goes on to say that these women are lawful to you as a Muslim. And yet, leftist politicians like Cori Bush want to lecture us about women's rights. Black Lives Matters just came out and openly supported Hamas with a picture of a paraglider carrying the Palestinian flag. Maybe they could address these verses from the Quran. What about Ilhan Omar? Could she explain these verses? Maybe she could do this before she shares publicly about praying to Allah. Think about all those people riding around town with the coexist bumper sticker on the back of their car. They constantly tell us, as conservatives, to quit being an intolerant bigot and learn how to tolerate other people's beliefs. What exactly do you think about these verses? What exactly do you think about Surah 98:6? It says, "The people of the book are the most vile of created beings." By the way, people of the book is a reference to Jews and Christians in the Quran. Talk about hypocrisy. One thing seems to be incredibly clear. All the evil carried out by ISIS, Hezbollah, and Hamas is supported by the Quran. As Robert Spencer recently said, this is what marinating on the Quran and the Hadiths will do to a human being. But what's not clear is how the left can show their support for Hamas while simultaneously lecturing us about women's rights, freedom, peace, and the list goes on. Sounds a little hypocritical to me.